Alright, camera is rolling.
We're using an X projector.
That still needs something or other.
Well, it looks like it's a laser projector. That way it's not...
There's 3 LCD.
Huh?
3 LCD projectors.
Really? Oh, there's 3?
Whatever that term means, I just know 3 LCD.
Well, it must be high lumens because you're able to shoot light
it's
at
about,
it and you're not losing anything.
I want to say between like 4,000 and 5,000 or something like that.
Because you're not losing anything by shooting light at it.
Well, if he brings like a lot of these like power lights,
you'd lose a little bit of it.
You lose a little bit of it. Yeah, but like in this ambient setting, yeah, it's great.
That's what I'm saying. It looks really nice right now. We have like a giant Epson projector that we could shoot the brightest light at it, and you can't tell. It's okay. Good luck, man.
Also, this is almost the
I watched them online. See how he appreciates me? Oh, excited to see your daddy? Her daddy's the drummer. Oh, wow.
He gets those guitars.
So good.
Hey, come back here. Stay up here.
I know. She's getting so big.
Here, headphones. It's gonna get loud.
Yeah. That's awesome. Having a good summer? Yeah, free throws.
Stay up here.
Fine, here, take it. Come on, kiss me. Put it in the cup. Fine. See better once music starts.
I know. Can you do it on the table? Can I watch? Wow.
I've got a seat down there.
My parents brought my older sister and I over from South Korea when I was about 8 years old to provide a better education system for us. My sister became a dentist and then I've become a physician.
What we've got to try to remember is we're all in this together and there are a lot more similarities between us than there are differences.
I think my first American experience was being called a nigger like the first week of school. It was a sort of baptism by fire.
There are good people everywhere, and they're all Americans. So there isn't one American experience. For me, America is the diversity of people.
As the wife of a military man, the mom of a military man, I know firsthand exactly what it takes to maintain our nation's sovereignty and liberty.
That major life decision to moving from India to the United States, that totally changed my life. I had to figure out this dual identity. So I'm Indian, but I'm also an American.
Getting to have all these opportunities in America that really no other country can really get is a big deal.
The thing that binds all of us together is that we all accept one another. The differences, the similarities, all of it.
I feel pride for my country, but I also am extremely critical of a place where life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is an expectation for some and merely a dream for others.
That was second grade was the first time that I learned that I was black. I'd always known I was black, obviously, like my skin tone, but the implications of what it meant to be African American, because we learned about Harriet Tubman and how she freed these slaves, and I remember being like, freed them from what? I'm so confused.
We are in a place where you can experience lots of different kinds of cultures, and there's not necessarily one expectation of how to be an American.
And I oftentimes have to think about how the world perceives me before I even leave the house. I have to think about what I wear, my mannerisms, my speech, just so that other people feel comfortable being around me.
My happiness has been fulfilled in feeling part of a community and learning to love your neighbor.
It's hard when I see people not appreciating people with this different color skin or trans people or gay people, because that's not nice.
trying. We're up all night, just watching lightning. Hold a hand and close enough to keep from crying. It's one side, make me lying. Find the truth, the way to rage against what's dying. We all right, resurrected, vulnerable and charismatic, well connected. Our people dry and less affected. More in ease and more in peace and less rejected. We're up all night, just watching lightning. Hold my hand and force a laugh to keep from crying. It's quite a sight to make me lying. Find truth, the way to rest against the dying.
being here. Thank you so much. We are here tonight. We worked on an album, and the idea was, it was about America, but not as a place or even an idea, but as an experiment. Something that's unfinished and can be beautiful and dangerous and glorious and absurd all at once. And the songs in the album, we're trying to, in some humble way, maybe have a conversation with our time and our place. And tonight's a bit of an American experiment in and of itself, because we invited some artists that we really admire and love to come here and apply their craft to our theme. So tonight you're going to see poets and playwrights and dancers, and filmmakers, all housed in sort of this vessel of creativity known as Steppenwolf Theatre. So thank you, Steppenwolf, for giving us the space to do this. And I really don't see this as a show or a review or a concert. It's a community, and you guys are all part of it. So I just ask that you give us your energy and be here with us in this moment, and maybe we can all get somewhere and feel something tonight. And like any good community, we should have a purpose, and tonight's purpose is an organization called Boys Hope, Girls Hope. It's an amazing organization. I know this because my wife is the executive director. And what they do is help kids who need a little hand. They send them to school at Loyola Academy and get them through college. And there's no better way to improve the American experiment than by things like Boys Hope, Girls Hope. So thank you for letting us work with you all tonight. But first, some music. It's called Jericho.
Firecracker with an angry streak. She bought a promise of American glory, but now the house is gonna slowly shriek. Said everybody's got a right to be happy. Everybody that's in front of me. The situation's going from comical to critical, and mine is looking for some company. Taking what they can from me. She pulled the trigger and the smoke looked over Jericho. Her hands are shaking, but her mind is free. There's the bones of a family, a flashing light off the metal in the river. The ghost of Jericho is finally free. The shadow is like something got to mention. A fallen angel and a cavalry. Commotion, keep the motor and shining. And what was left of the world was she.
A mighty voice speaks with me tonight. Langston Hughes helps me tell the story of the boy in the boots. Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain seeking a home where she herself is free. But America was never America to me. On the morning of the 16th of November 1992, I laced up my favourite pair of boots and I walked out of my family's house in Scotland. I hugged my mum and dad at the airport and we all cried as I left home on a one-way ticket to Chicago. 9 hours later, wearing these boots, I stepped into a new life in America. Say, who are you that mumbles in the dark, and who are you that draws your veil across the stars? I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery's scars. I am the red man driven from my land. I am the immigrant, clutching the hope I seek. Fast forward 3,832 days. I realized I'd spent one more day of my life living in America than I'd spent in Scotland. And that was a major identity trip. Who am I? Where do I belong? I found the answer to these questions in the back of my closet. These boots still fit perfectly. I'm the one who sailed those early seas in search of what I meant to be my home. I'm the one who left dark Scotland shores and Poland's plain and England's grassy lea, and torn from black Africa's strand, I came to build a homeland of the free. On the 19th of April last year, I laced up these boots once again, and I went to Chicago's Immigration and Citizenship Center to become an American citizen. In the room where people wait to become Americans, there is a big rug. On it, there is a large, colourful map of the United States of America. Each state is represented by a different, vivid colour. And in the moment, immediately before I swore my oath of allegiance, I looked at the rug. Upon it, there were children whose skin and hair and personalities were as varied and different as the map below their feet. The children were all playing peacefully together, and one of them was my son. My friends, this is America. It's not about blood running in veins or places written on birth certificates. It's about values in hearts, ideas in minds, and fires in bellies. I chose to become an American. Why? When there is so much that's bad and wrong happening in America. But let me tell you that the moment I swore my oath of allegiance, I felt the tide of hundreds of years, and I felt millions of hopes and dreams. That felt assuring, it felt inspiring, it felt right, and it felt good. I became an American because I owe it to the boy in the boots. And I owe it to my wife and my sons who give me a shot at living out the dreams I brought with me from Scotland. Life in America is about creating yourself. She may be imperfect, but let us never forget that America's purpose and her promise are perfect. They are worth the fight. They are worth your fight. You owe it to the little girl or the little boy in the boots that lives inside each one of you. So America, as I put my Scottish shoulder to the wheel, I say this: let America be America again. The land that has never been yet and yet must be. The land where everyone is free. The land that's mine, the poor man's, the Negroes, the Indians, the immigrants, me. Who made America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry and plough in the rain must bring our mighty dream again. And yes, I say it plain, America was never America to me. But I swear this oath, America will be.
He's tired of doing his time. He's bumping up like a shooting at lights. I heard some rhythm of that behavior take a break in the fight. Another soldier in chains, another fortunate son, another jumpsuit, jarhead hero, and all was said and done. Another kick to the gut, another kick to the head, another knockout at hotel nowhere, and all was done and said.
Wow, what a night so far. Let's hear it again for Church Shooter Social Club. We are all part of this American experiment, and to quote their song Jericho, the situation's gone from comical to critical. So now, more than ever, it's important that we all do our part to make this American experiment even better. I, for one, am committed to making change, and I want to invite you in to make change as well. Commitments can be big or small, and to quote Vincent van Gogh, great things are done by a series of small things brought together. Postcards like these are being handed out as I speak, and before the night is over, I want you to write down one thing that you commit to doing to make this American experiment more successful. And if you self-address the postcard, I will mail it back to you in 3 months as a reminder. Some commitments I've already collected. I commit to showing gratitude every day. I commit to giving forgiveness I've been denying. I commit to picking a family in need and figuring out the best way I can help them. I commit to exploring another's perspective that I don't agree with and find common ground. Commitments are a personal thing, so pick one that is meaningful to you, and by writing it down, it makes it real. And by sharing it with others, we'll hold you accountable. We'll be collecting your commitment cards at the end of the evening, and we'll be hanging them back behind the stage for everyone to read and be inspired by. So thank you for your commitment, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Well, thanks, brother. We don't do a lot of audience participation, but we have one more ask of you. It's a tradition at Trick Shooter shows to have Chris Ellison offer a toast to our several guests. Chris.
Hey, you guys, how you guys doing tonight? All right, guys, we on this stage are nothing without the people in the audience. All of you who are in this room tonight are very important to us. So this toast, Trick Shooter Social Club, is given to you, our friends, our family, our kids over there calling me daddy, everybody in the room. We appreciate you.
All right, this is up to new album. It's called Duck and Run.
American experiment, engaging experience. Now it's up to you to follow your truths and call it experience. I must do diligence while I'm in your atmosphere, while I'm in your ear, you hear me clear, though I'm out the stratosphere. It's so easy to back and run. It takes courage to stand and fight. It's a true to refuse it. So recycle the record and take back with his music. Now for me, yes. In this world on my own, if I had to face it alone, Sam would get me on. So you know it's gonna come on. Thank you very much. Trick Shooter.
You may write me down in history with your bitter and twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does this sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns with certainty of tides, just like hopes springing high, still I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does this haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard? 'Cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness. But still, like air, I'll rise. Does this sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I'll rise. Up from the past that's rooted in pain, I'll rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, wailing and swelling I bear in the tide, leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I'll rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I'll rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I'll rise, I'll rise, I rise.
She's a little nervous, you can hear it when she speaks. She's still self-conscious about the bruise above her cheek. Her train's delayed, and she's still in Battle Creek. She lit her first under the depot balcony. Someone said there's silver in the mines. She chased a ghost across the Mason-Dixon line. She grew up fast in broken record time. Her daughter waitress, mother, her sister elder bride, and her soul got dropped one night in a house behind a neon sign. Been a worn, torn and tattered ride for every sister of the bride. It's not on purpose, it's not her cup of tea. The painted smiles and the false sincerity. Way down on the line, there's a light, and it just might be the sun. Way down on the line, there's a light, and it just might be the sun. Way down on the line, there's a light, and it just might be the sun. Way down on the line, there's a light, and it just might be the sun. And it just might be the
The older girl who used to volunteer at the hospital, Mom always said she had a gentle soul. She was the one who would bring us cold milk and apricots on hot days. You know, the one that refused to give away any of the kittens. Once, she fed me mint leaves. Some days, we'd walk down the road to sneak and spy on her singing as she collected eggs. Her voice sounded like water receding between shells and rocks on the shore. I no longer remember her name. Do you, brothers, do you remember her name? I do remember that every house harbors a sad story. The memory of her, like the day Mom hung out sheets on the line in the morning, but they froze instead in the frigid wind. Later that day, wet snow clung to sunflowers, weighting them down until they bowed humbly to the wind. Please, sister, please, brother, remember her name. Remember her name. Remember her name.
A Ghost in Del Rio by Carlos Murillo. I keep a pile of old Rand McNally's in my car. Look at them all the time on the road when I can't sleep, when I'm empty, when I'm trying to remember. Web of blue and pink lines connect one place to another. I keep looking for what's in the blank spaces bypassed by those lines. Never seen a Rand McNally show you what's in them. Stuff you throw away, stuff you lose, stuff you don't want to look at, stuff you want to forget. Maybe the blank spaces keep the map from tearing itself apart. This story I found in one of those blank spaces. Once upon a time, Minnie was queen of Del Rio Oasis in the Texas desert, a stone's throw away from the Mexican border. She lives in the Pink Palace on Qualia Road, where once she held court with diplomats, captains of industry, Hollywood idols, country music legends. The King of Siam showed once to pay his respects. It wasn't just the powerful that came. Every Christmas Eve, poor kids from up the road in San Felipe Pueblo crowded the mighty palace gates, waiting for Minnie and her husband, king of the airwaves, to come outside, unload the truckload of presents, hand them out, each and every one of them. Mind you, this was the Depression. Santa waited it out at the North Pole. Minnie and her king came from less than nothing, schemed their way to the top of the American pyramid. Least they could do was give something back. But no one comes by anymore. In the bicentennial year 1976, the pink paint's chipped off, the Spanish roof tiles are cracked and falling, weeds reclaim the once elegant sweep of the driveway, swimming pools empty except for piles of leaves. It's a South Texas Sunset Boulevard. Minnie's inside, wanders the grand rooms. She's auctioned off half the furniture. She's still paying her husband's debts from 30 years ago when he left this earth disgraced. Lonely nights like this, she calls her prince Johnny Boy. Every night she begs him to come home, even though he lives a mile away on a bungalow on Avenue E. Johnny Boy always felt ashamed of those Christmas Eves. No matter how many toys he handed out, he couldn't erase the ache. They were his age. He had everything. They had nothing. Well, Prince Johnny Boy's traveled the whole wide world, done a slew of things in his life, tried to make his mark like his daddy. No matter, his story ended in shame. College at Yale, law school at UT, U.S. Army stint in Germany, covert work for CIA, Bay of Pigs. Married, had a daughter. 2 months later, his wife left him for his true love. He tried living his dream for a spell, setting up shop as a photographer near Washington Square Park in New York City. At least that's what his obituary says. Every time he thought he finally escaped its gravity, Del Rio dragged him back. Racing towards 50, he can't help but think, I've been all these places, lived all these lives, but what's it added up to? Not much. Lonely nights in his bungalow at 204 Avenue E, he listens to old acetates of his daddy, king of the airwaves, inherited collection of his regular Sunday night radio sermons, broadcast from Del Rio across the American continent. Johnny Boy was 16 last time he heard his father's real voice. He listens, grasping for some key in his father's words that might free him from this prison cell. In his fugue state, he catches only bits and pieces. A few days ago, a grandson of the owner of one of America's greatest fortunes finished a 3-year apprenticeship in a Texas oil field. His mind wanders. Daddy's casket lowered into the Memphis dirt. Associates of this young man declare that he worked with zeal, a painstaking student from beginning to end. His mind wanders, holding little Angie as he watches Sandra close the door for the last time. That young man made a choice to honor his family name. His mind wanders, mother pacing alone in the rooms of the empty Pink Palace. You should be an example. In the great plan, your time is a divine allotment. If you are born with sense enough to do anything worthy, it is required of you to do it. The telephone snaps Johnny awake. The recordings come to an end. Mother's voice on the other end, will you please come home? Why be all alone there when we could be alone here together? He doesn't answer. She hears a pop. Unlike the Pink Palace on Qualia, Johnny Boy's bungalow's not there anymore. They erased it to make way for a supermarket. But some nights back near the dumpsters in the blazing Texas heat, you can feel the cold spot.
So thank you for hanging with us. We got a few more things left to do, no more show left for you. But I realize we haven't properly met, and that's very rude, so I'd like to introduce the band, if I may. On fiddle, Beltran del Campo, a blazing musician from all sorts of idioms, not just chicken pig and Appalachian fiddle. He can do anything, and he has the coolest tattoos in the band. Just ask him. On bass, the first person to join this incarnation of Trick Shooter Social Club, James McNaughton. Beyond rock solid, brilliant musician. On drums, I know you guys have already met. This is Chris Ellison. Like I said about Chris, a couple years ago for Christmas, we got him a superhero hat because he's kind of like superhuman. Plays like a madman, unbelievable energy, and we're happy to have him as part of the Social Club. On two luxurious red Nord keyboards, we have Chris Bartley, who is a mad scientist, a madly skilled musician, and a complete joy to be around every day. On accordion, we have Ruth Margaret. She is a poet, she is a writer, she is a creative artist. She is an amazing accordion player. I'm so happy to have her part of our social club. On my right, you may have met Maggie Mitchell earlier. Maggie is singing the harmonies, she's singing the lead, and once in a while she puts her hands up like this, we all just go, ah. And she will take it someplace. Maggie Mitchell on vocals. On my left, my partner in all of this for such a long time. I mean, I think the definition of an artist is when you have no reason to believe in what you're doing, but you do it anyway. And Larry and I started like that in the basement in Lakeview probably 7-8 years ago. Nobody was paying attention to anything we were writing except us. And we just kept making and meeting. And there's nobody on the planet I'd rather make and meet people with than Larry Liss on guitar.
And ladies and gentlemen, my brother, Steve Sumancic.
I do have one more musician I want to introduce. There's a musician in the house tonight. He's actually the first musician I've ever met in my life. And he was the first man I've ever met in my life. And the best man I've ever met in my life is my dad. And I knew this. So when I was just a little guy, we were in Detroit, we played accordion. And we have parties in the basement, and it'd be, people debating politics, talking, people are, doing their thing, being people. He'd go after a couple, flat cans of beer and break out the accordion. And it was like magic. It was a magic box. Suddenly someone's dancing and singing, and two uncles that didn't get along are now side by side listening to the music. And I'll never forget that. And I think since then, I've been trying to get back to just a little glimmer of the magic that I saw as a little guy and the power of music. So I think that's very much informed Trick Shooter and tonight. And it is Simo's birthday. So if you indulge me in a lot of happy birthday, happy birthday to yourself and happy birthday.
On a 2 and a 3.
It's Simo.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Simo. Happy birthday to you.
Here we are on the show again. This song is called Carry Me Home, and it is written for anyone who has ever found themselves a little bit lost trying to get back home. Play that record once again. I have $1 left to spend. Resolutions round here abound. Call it home, but it ain't that kind of crowd.
Whiskey tango well for dawn. I showed the broadside of my jaw. Hero Romeo, a fraud with a chance. sway, even if we couldn't dance. Carry me home once again. Strip me naked of my sin. 'Cause more of my story than meets the eye. From away, if you can just leave on the light. Hold me near to my face. Make me understand my place. Make me worthy. Make me again. Give me hope. Give me shelter from the wind. Carry me home once again. Strip me naked of my sin. 'Cause one of my story, let me see from away. You can just leave on the light. All that's left to me is alone. I come here empty and undone. My soul surrenders in the dark of night, and an angel sits on top of the earth. Carry me home once again. Strip me naked of my sin. All my story, let me see from away. Just leave on the light. Play that record once again. I have $1 left to spend. Resolutions round here abound. I call it hope, but it ain't that kind of crowd.
This don't feel like no goddamn American dream to me. Well, not in this small town at least. Used to be that people would come out here and fill this whole place up. Soon as I opened at 7 a.m., the doors of Hope's Diner would swing open. They would fly open. Child, this place was heaving. Lunch counter jam-packed with folks, black, white, Latino, everything in between. They would come in from the factory for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. All chatting it up, guzzling down my coffee and getting second helpings of Ma's famous gumbo, or crab cakes, or chocolate cake. So much laughter and kindness bursting out of this tiny little restaurant of mine just outside of Mobile. Big Eddie Barrows would read his Bible every morning with egg and toast and his coffee black. Same book, same chapter, same verse he'd read. Psalms 135. Crawford, Bailey, and Lopez would come in here every Turkey Dinner Tuesday, sit right over there. Adam Marquis was the best lawyer in town. Even better, he was a handsome black man and a regular at Hope Cafe. He'd come in here every some odd week, sit at the counter and tell me his adventures this week and last. He'd go into the city, visit some fancy restaurant or another, and come back telling me I need to expand my menu with the things he found. One day he came in here talking about how everybody loves my gumbo, but if I'm gonna be successful, I need to start selling a vegan gumbo. I said, don't be believing these fancy white boys. I told him there ain't no such thing as a vegan gumbo. Whatever they put in your bowl was a goddamn minestrone, and you should be ashamed of yourself for believing that. In the librarian, Miss Irish and young Hector would come and play a game of chess right over there in that booth. Miss Irish said Hector was a natural. She said he was one of the best she'd ever seen. Boy had potential. She said she was going to sign him up for a competition this summer. He was a champion. She knew it. This town was good. Things were right. Business was good and the people were kind, and I felt like in this little town I was living the American dream. And then the factory closed and things changed. I haven't seen folks acting that kind of way since those towers fell in New York City. Fear has a way of bringing out the worst in folks. Then they set fire and drag Iraqi flags behind their pickup trucks. They broke the windows of Mr. Patel's laundromat. They drove that man and his whole family out of town. The tragic thing is they weren't even Iraqi. They are Indian. And that's a whole other part of the world, but that just tells you about the public education here. Anyhow, the factory closed and people around here started turning on each other, started getting mean-spirited. Like the devil got right up inside of them, moved in, took up residence, put the damn feet up on the couch. Crawford, Bailey, and Lopez don't eat with each other no more. All on account of Crawford and Bailey being laid off and Lopez still working. They said it was on account of Lopez being a scam and that immigrants being cheap labor. Didn't matter to them that Lopez was born and raised in the same town as them. Pretty soon Crawford turned on Bailey too. Adam Marquis, well, he drove to that big old city and didn't come back. Two men in uniforms, they pulled him over. Highway patrol got out of their cars and approached him. I just imagined their voices, a low murmur asking him for his ID. I picture him dressed in his suit and the tie, hands on the steering wheel, 10 and 2. Yes, sirs and no, sirs. On my way to dinner in the place, sir. Him fighting off nerves, wiping his sweat from his brow. He reaches into the glove compartment. What's he got to fear? He is a respected black man, a college-educated, tax-paying, law-abiding citizen. He reaches in that glove compartment and I don't think I need to tell you the rest. I just pictured him with his eyes staring open, gasping for breath, silently asking, God, what is it that what did I do? What did I do wrong? I did everything right. He was loved. It was clear by how many people came out for his condolences. At the service, it was packed. People from the diner and clients, flowers filled the place. During the service, I joked that if he had stayed in town and just had settled for this real gumbo instead of that vegan minestrone mess, he'd still be here. It got a few chuckles, but not many. Wrong place, wrong time. I was never a comedian. And Big Eddie Barrows, he read from that Bible that day, that same passage he read every morning at the cafe. I wait for the Lord, my soul waits, and in his words I hope. The closing of the factory and the murder of Adam Marquis, you would have thought that would bring the town together, but not this time. Fall, winter, 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 spring, spring flipped into summer, and that Alabama heat is a cruel one. Hector was on his way to the cafe for chess practice. He walked from Madison Street to Michigan, Clark Street to Patriots Row, over the bridge and down Rivers Road into the brutal heat when some boys must have been a little older than Hector. They drove up in a pickup truck. They chased him to the door of my restaurant and they beat him. Fists flying, eyes narrowed into slits of rage. All the while, Hector called out for help, weeping, begging for me to open the door, as I just watched. I stood there and I watched. Finally, I raced over to open it and scream at those teenagers, and I was going to call the police, and they didn't leave him alone. It was too late. One of the boys, as Hector collapsed against the doorway, they stomped on his hand over and over again as Hector screamed, begging them to stop. When they finished, they looked at me, smiled, and high-fived each other. I knew those boys. I watched them grow in this very neighborhood. They laughed, hopped into their truck, and drove away. I helped Hector in his hand, smashed up and twisted upon themselves like broken twigs, and he asked me what took me so long to come and help. I had nothing to say. Hector didn't get to compete in the chess competition this summer. Afterwards, a little less people started coming through the doors of the cafe. Nowadays, no one sits shoulder to shoulder. No one wants that. Now just ghosts. Phantoms of their old selves just walk in, scarf down meals like hungry vultures, and then they just up and leave. Ed Barrows came into his usual breakfast, scrambled eggs, bacon, and an English muffin on the side. This time, no Bible by his side. He always got this Bible in the morning, so I sat with him that morning and I asked why he wasn't carrying it. He looked at me, then back at his coffee, steam rising, and he said, "Don't feel like there's much to be hoping for. Guess I'm just tired of waiting." He finished his breakfast, I cleared his table, and as I walked away to the kitchen, a small part of me shattered.
Let's just say, baby, don't try to save me, 'cause God's on my side. Your mama's so tired, too dope sick and wired to get out of line. Two beautiful rednecks pulled over a beauty on Jefferson Drive. Brown and red and blue and white. Any truth can seem self-evident by the dawn's blinding light. Give me your lonely, you're tired and hungry, your beautiful life. You're lonely and wasted.
sweet honesty perfume. Babysitting you, my little Game Boy brother. Jumping your dirt bike over Pepsi trucks and boxcars. Messing up my penny drops off the swing set. Oh, you were rushing by me like a lunchbox over those Evel Knievel puddles. And I could pray then to the masculine divine surveillance deep in the closet like the Dillon family when those 5 tornadoes touched down and the closet was the only thing left standing. Their baby grand piano was destroyed. And I could press my 4-leaf clovers down in a church that's getting boarded up and vandalized. And all of it was bicentennial, flags unfurled, flags unfurled. And I was singing alto in a maxi dress, red, white, and blue. There were so many missiles coming right out of your little shoulder blades, out of the tube and into the air, heavy in the tube and lighter in the air. And then you just like tracked that target super fast, rammed into it hard, like all those Bang Harder Derby t-shirts. And we call the payload squeezing out in the oozing orange crush, like that one soda that never seemed to go anywhere, but ended up in Mexico hot and flat, like the pulp of all those soft, soft targets. And in between your demolitions, I'd just build my breaker wall and hope your monster pillars wouldn't waddle onto my little trench. I'd think of you as driving in a car out there in your closely fitted weapons, piloting the suit. Must be hot as hell in there, inside the monster's face, where the seeds of populations tried to glom on to the parachute battalion, burrowed down in the Godzilla scales, till one soldier day you feel one of those crashes that comes all the way inside the armor. See the edge of something tearing into you, a sort of bruising blood that rolls around you when you're in a bad collision, because you know that it's a really bad collision. What church was I in when you fell down? Something with a steeple you could see from the highway. Get off the exit. Camouflage, camouflage, camouflage.
Tonight I'm holding steady, white knuckle borderline. I ain't as rough and ready, 'cause I ain't less scared this time. Oh, faker, lover, seeker, oh, Icarus in flight. I hate my brother's keeper, at least I hate tonight. No band-aid broken promise, no candy folded lines. I'm headed drunk and honest, just past the alley line. Like a finger tingle, I'm chasing your mind. And more than I can handle, set free what's up behind. All alone, twisted and weird, I felt alive. Baby, I felt alive. All alone, twisted and weird, I felt alive. Baby, I felt
Thank you so much for going on this experiment with us. Please join us out in the bar for a cocktail after this song. We have some awesome merch. We actually have posters from the Tony Fitzpatrick that we'd love to have you check out. We're going to end with a song because part of the American experiment is also just saying, fuck it. And this song is called Pour Some Whiskey on My Grave.
Conversations meant to
No, man. Yeah, Germany's the right guy for the job. See what I did there?